Do you ever feel like you are doing all of the hard work? You're putting in all this effort, but you're not seeing anything? You haven't crossed the finish line, you haven't achieved that big goal? It can be really frustrating, I know personally. But if you change your perspective and focus on those small wins that you make along the way to achieving your big goal, everything changes and discipline suddenly becomes enjoyable. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Mary Ofori-Attah and I'm so happy to have you here. If you're new, welcome to my conversation around discipline. This has been a few videos on discipline, something that has been really apparent in my life over the 10 years of being an entrepreneur. And if you are joining again for the updated video, we are talking more about discipline. Don't worry. We are actually going to talk about the fun parts of discipline today, which is about the rewards, the celebration, the fun, the treats that can come along the way. As you know, I love to talk about progress over perfection and celebrating those wins. And that honestly is such a secret sauce into using discipline as your tool, to relying on discipline and not being afraid of it anymore, and actually flexing that muscle, feeling confident with using discipline, and not being afraid to implement it into your daily life. We hear about this all the time, but you want to track your progress. Why does tracking progress even make sense? It is so important to understand where you started, where you're going, and where you want to arrive at. But if you don't track your steps along the way, it's really easy to fall off track, to not feel motivated. Hello, loss of motivation. We know what that's all about. As we know, discipline is not something that just happens overnight, and it's not something that you're going to fall into and stick with for the rest of your life. Discipline is like a muscle that we all have to work on. We have to build it up. We have to flex it. We have to stretch it. We have to remember we have it and revisit it often. But one of the best things about discipline is actually celebrating those acts of discipline. So instead of looking at achieving the big picture and the big goal, you want to break down that into smaller steps, understanding what it takes to get to that big picture and big goal, and celebrating everything that you've achieved along the way. Otherwise, this journey of discipline and reaching your goals is not going to be fun. And we want to have a little bit of fun, even when we're putting some discipline into place. You want to enjoy this ride, and this is one of the best ways to enjoy implementing discipline and reaching those goals that you've set out for yourself. When it comes to discipline, you want to be able to track your progress. You don't want to just focus on that big goal. Otherwise, when you arrive, you honestly won't feel as accomplished. I know that sounds crazy, but as my experience of an entrepreneur over 10 years, a lot of times when I don't track my progress to arrival, I forget everything it took for me to get there. I forget the nights that I stayed up late, those small wins of seeing the needle moving forward, of seeing our Instagram growth or our sales month over month, whatever it may be. If I'm not tracking those things, when I achieve the goal, it just falls flat because I'm already focused on what's next. So it's really important to track what you've accomplished, even those small baby tiny steps along the way, and celebrate them as you achieve them. It's not just about the destination. It really is about the journey. So without actually tracking and recording these small achievements, it's easy to miss them. So whether you are someone who uses an app, you use your notes in your phone, or you actually write things down. I'm a big tangible person, so I love to write things down. It is important to write these things down and recognize these steps that you've taken, recognize these small wins and these moments that you feel proud of yourself. It goes back to creating that dopamine, creating that cycle that you start to realize, oh, this hard work does pay off, and I do feel good when I put work in. Tracking these habits and these routines also goes back to accountability and, in a weird way, motivation. So when you see that you're doing the things you set yourself out to do, that you are accomplishing those goals, not only are you holding yourself accountable, but you're also seeing the results of this work. You can start to feel motivated when you see yourself accomplishing these things. Sometimes the small steps give us that dopamine hit and that motivation to keep going, even when it feels like our big picture goal is so far off. Another thing that I love about tracking, and this is maybe the analytical A-type part of my brain, but you can actually start to see some patterns and you can really see your growth, but you get that data. There's something so cool about seeing a chart that starts to go up. If you're someone who's on YouTube and you've been building your YouTube channel, I know you're looking at your analytics and you're looking for that nice as we call it, a hockey stick curve where it goes up as high as it can. Same thing for your Instagram following, or maybe you're reaching out to new clients and you're starting to see your client list build. Whatever it may be, seeing these numbers, these stats, whatever you're looking at in terms of tracking, but whatever you're tracking, you can start to see that uptick. It gives you this reassurance that, okay, I am on the right path, I am moving in the right direction, and I will achieve my goals. So it's so important to not only track your progress, but celebrate them. Recognize that uptick in your growth, that uptick in your data, your analytics, and make sure that you're holding yourself accountable to tracking these things, writing them down, even if it takes 30 seconds at the end of the day to just write a little note of something that you accomplished that day towards your big picture goal. It's easy to come back and look at those things, find that motivation again, and remember why you're doing what you're doing to stay on track to reaching your dreams. The real question is, how are you going to do it? Because it's not always going to be the same for everyone. What works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. But like I said, you can use different things like an app. If you're like me, I can't download one more app. So I definitely use my Notion calendar. I have a Notion template that I can actually drop below that my business, Mary Young, created for something just like this. So I use Notion. Sometimes I will use the Notes app in my phone because you could do a little like checkbox on those. And then I also like to track it by journaling. I think finding something that works, that is first nature for you, that you're not going to stretch yourself into trying to create a new habit or something that doesn't feel natural, is the best way, because it's something you're going to do easier. It's going to create another small daily habit that is a good habit because it's about celebrating. It's not about doing something and accomplishing something. It's about recognizing those accomplishments, but you do want it to be low lift. And you're probably thinking, okay, so what if I'm not working towards a big goal? What am I supposed to be tracking? How am I supposed to be even recognizing these small wins if you don't feel like you're having them? And that's something that happens a lot of times when you're working towards a big goal and maybe your motivation has faded and you're sort of feeling stuck. You're thinking, I don't have any small wins. I have nothing to track. When you feel like that, I promise you, listen to me, I promise you that you do have something to track, and that can just be how you're feeling. So, the Notion template that my brand Mary Young created is actually really about your feelings and how you handle each day. If you're doing the right things for yourself, like drinking water or getting enough rest, sleep, whatever it may be. But on those days that you feel like you're not accomplishing anything, you can easily track your mood. You can track, did I feel energized when I woke up in the morning? Or at the end of the day, did I feel like I had a good day? Or was I not having a great day? And sometimes when you track these things, like I said, you can look at the data, you can go back and see, why have I not been feeling my best? Have I not been sleeping properly? Maybe I haven't been eating well. Or for me, I'm like, oh, I'm in my luteal phase. I am not feeling great because my hormones are not in a place that makes me feel good. So there's different things that you can learn from tracking, but you want to make sure that you are tracking the smallest things like how you're feeling to the bigger things of, did you post 5 times a week this week like you said you were going to? Or did you run 10 kilometers like you said you were going to while you're training for your half marathon? Whatever it is you're working towards, big or small, or just you want to have a better day to day quality of life, there's always something to be tracked. And when you're tracking it is when you start to feel the difference and start to see that discipline really is paying off. Very similar to using these different apps, you want to actually create this system to stay consistent with tracking. So for me, I want to make sure that I track these things every single day. So I do like to have a bit of a recap at the end of the day, even if it is just with myself in my mind, or maybe I'm sharing with my partner or a friend. I like to recognize what has happened that day, how I'm feeling, and actually tracking it in my app, on my Notion template, or by journaling it. So it does feel like a lot going into this, thinking every day I need to recognize something I've accomplished. But I promise you, there is something you have accomplished every single day, big or small. And sometimes the smallest things really add up. I've been doing this on TikTok where I film my acts of discipline for the day. And some days I'm like, oh my gosh, I've done so many things around discipline. I have emptied my dishwasher. I have wiped down my countertops. I completed my top 3 tasks at work. I went for a walk. I had quality time with my partner. The list suddenly builds and builds and builds when you realize these small things really do add up. Sometimes it's not the big thing that's leading towards the big goal, but those small things that do make a difference day in and day out. And even if it is one single thing, that is something that you should be celebrating. When it comes to celebrating, you're probably asking, why do I need to celebrate these small wins? It's not the finish line, it's not accomplishing the half marathon, but these small wins really stack up. So think about it as all these little slices of paper. You start to stack these little slices of paper, suddenly you have a thick stack of paper, a big stack of paper, and you can really see all those small things adding up. And it creates that motivation when you're feeling lost with your why. Acknowledging these accomplishments, small or big, does create this sort of pattern in your mind that motivates you because you recognize you are doing the things you set yourself out to do. You are doing the hard things and you are achieving anything that you've put your mind to, big or small, one step at a time, you are achieving it. Okay, and now, how do we celebrate these wins? I love a treat. I am a treat girl. I love a matcha. I love going to get a coffee with a friend. Whatever it is that is your thing, you want to set these up as your rewards. So it doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to buy a new car at the end of this year. But maybe that is a goal that you're working towards. So if you continue working towards that, saving so much every month that you can actually get that car, that's the big reward. But the small rewards along the way that do need to be celebrated look a little different. So it might be, you know what, on my Friday morning walk, if I went for a walk every single day, Monday through Friday, then on Friday I get myself a coffee or a matcha, whatever it may be. Or I get to read in bed longer on the weekend because I worked really hard throughout the week that I made sure I didn't have any leftover work for the weekend. And I'm saying this as someone who often has leftover work for the weekend. I like to work hard and focus throughout the week so that when the weekend comes around, I can actually relax and rest into myself and give myself that time and that reward of not feeling like I'm procrastinating and I'm putting something off. Some other ways to celebrate are going back to kindergarten, but it is putting a sticker on your agenda. It is marking something on your calendar in highlighter so that you can visibly see what you have done when you have accomplished something, or it can even be sending a text to a friend celebrating that. This could be when your accountability buddy comes into play and you can say, hey, I know we've been talking about it, but guess what? I did it. I stuck with it for a week or 2 weeks or this entire month. Sharing these things and celebrating yourself isn't boasting. It is holding yourself accountable with someone who wants to see you succeed and who is there to support you along the way. So it's really important to lean on those accountability partners, friends, family, and recognize your growth and allow them to support you in this because discipline, like I said, shouldn't be a solo journey. When you're celebrating these small wins, these celebrations, these achievements creates a new habit loop. We've talked about habits before, whether it's habit stacking, habit tracking. The habit loop becomes this second nature thing that you can rely on for motivation, especially when you're not feeling it. Why is it important to celebrate small wins? I'm going to promise you it is going to make this whole journey so much better. Recognizing the small things, taking you to your big goal, to your big dream, the life you want to live, is the encouragement and the reminder that you are on the right path and you will succeed. It's basically a no fail. This is the right way to keep going. Even when you're feeling distracted, low motivation, whatever it may be, celebrating these wins is going to course correct you and redirect you back to achieving your big goal. Each celebration actually creates a habit loop. You know how much I love a habit, whether you're habit tracking, habit stacking, we love habits. But this habit loop actually creates this dopamine cycle basically in your brain. You're associating your actions with a positive outcome, which is those small celebrations, which builds long-term commitment. So it starts to become first nature when you do this. It starts to feel like, okay, I am achieving these things. I am getting where I want to be. And it becomes first nature that you automatically do these things. You automatically start to see the good in every single day. You start to see everything that you're achieving and accomplishing, which leads to confidence. I know it is hard to have confidence when you feel like you haven't crossed the finish line, that you haven't arrived where you want to be yet. But having this confidence and building it up is a part of the process. So when you do arrive, you're not relying on that big goal as your confidence builder. You're actually using these smaller goals to help slowly build that confidence and build that trust within yourself that you can do these hard things and you will achieve your goals. By tracking and celebrating your wins, you're actually reinforcing trust with yourself. And I think this is a big reason why discipline can feel like such a scary word and something that we all tend to avoid because we don't know if we can actually do the things we set ourselves out to do. We're afraid of failure. It's fear, it's doubt. There's all these different negative emotions that come up when you think of discipline. But by starting small, not doing that 180-degree turn of going from waking up at 9 a.m. to waking up at 5 a.m., but looking at these small steps, getting up 10 minutes earlier each day, putting your laundry away right away. I know firsthand. Doing these small things actually starts to create a sense of trust in yourself that you normally wouldn't have, because you see these small steps adding up and you start to realize, hey, I can do the things that I said I was going to do. I can trust myself to show up, even when my motivation fades and even on those hard days. This sense of trust is also a sense of self-love. You start to see yourself differently. You don't see yourself as the person who said they want to do something and couldn't do it. You know that you're the person who said, if I want to do that, I have to take small steps, use my daily habits, rely on discipline, have my accountability buddy, all these small little things to make sure that you do show up for yourself and that you will continue to show up for yourself. The great thing about building this trust within yourself is you're proving to yourself that you can set those goals, that you can show up for yourself. The best thing about building self-trust is you're also reinforcing that you can do these things. So you're building that confidence in yourself that when I say I'm going to do it, I will do it. You may falter, you may stumble. That is so normal. That is a part of the journey, but you can and you will show up for yourself, and you will use discipline to support you in achieving your goals. So here's the challenge for you. I know we've talked about discipline for weeks now. You may be feeling energized, hopefully a little motivated, but my challenge for you is to start tracking your progress. If you've watched all of my videos in the discipline series, you've already done something that is leading you towards reaching your goal. You've already invested time. You've spent time watching these videos, thinking about it, hopefully taking some small steps. So this is already something that you can celebrate in the big picture of reaching the goal that you want to reach and just becoming a more disciplined person. So make it a habit to celebrate these small steps, these small wins. Tell your accountability buddy, write it down in your journal or your agenda, put it into a note or an app. Go get yourself that coffee for achieving your every single day goal this week. Set a goal for the month and treat yourself when you achieve that goal and you show up for yourself. And remember, it is okay to stumble, but as long as you keep getting up and you focus on progress over perfection. At the end of the day, the only way to grow discipline is to nurture it. It is a muscle that you have to continue to work, to flex, to stretch, to go back and revisit. It's not something that you do once and you can rely on. The more you nurture it, the more you're going to show up for yourself. You're going to build that confidence and actually feel like you are on track to arriving where you want to be. So I would love to hear from you. If you have watched all of these videos on discipline, you get 5 gold stars in my books. What have you done for yourself that is focused on discipline, whether it's a big step, a small step? And also, how do you plan on tracking this? Do you use an app? Are you going to use your journal, your notebook? Let me know in the comments so we can all learn from each other, because this really is a big learning process together. Like I said, discipline is not a solo journey. It is intended to be done with others, which is why I'm here sharing my experience about discipline and how it really has changed my life. If you haven't watched the previous videos, now's a great time to go back. There's about, I think, 6 discipline videos. So you can watch all of those now, get inspired. Remember that this is not something that's going to happen overnight. It is something that is the journey. It's not about crossing the finish line, and you can really enjoy the journey of discipline by using these different secrets that I'm sharing with you and building the life that you want to.